taking notes. Where's my notebook?
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Great, great, great.
Naomi's in there.
Great. Asia, if you don't mind me, if everybody can make sure that their phones are muted, we're recording and we're going to get start lickety split because everybody's time for this hour is super valuable. We want to pack in as much as we can. Okay, we're going to get this show on the road. Hi, everyone. How are you? My name is Dr. Vidette Coleman Robinson, and I'm the Executive Director of the Association of African American Museums. We have a partnership going on with the National Park Service in which we have a grant program with Park History, but then we also help Park History get everybody on the African American Civil Rights Network. So we will be working diligently with you and along with Park History to make sure that you guys are on the network. And Ashley Adams, who is of Park History, is on the call today. So she will walk you through those items. But just real quickly, Camille, can you advance the slide, please? For those of you who are not familiar with the Association of African American Museums, we have been around since 1978, and we are a nonprofit member organization established to support African and African American focused museums nationally and internationally. We also support the practitioners who are in the field and really give tons of support, tons of trainings and things of that nature for everyone who's in our membership. And this is one of the trainings and partnerships that we do. And then we also have an annual conference. This year we were in Nashville, and next year we will be in Baltimore. So I hope that you all can join us next year. And of our team, I am Dr. Vidette Coleman Robinson. I don't know which side that is on your screen, but then we also have Camille, who is our grants program manager, and then also our HBCU fellow. Camille, can you advance, please? And this is just our mission statement. It's exactly what I just said. The association is a nonprofit membership organization who's here to support African and African American focused museums nationally and internationally. Next slide, Camille. And then this is what you guys really came for. You came to learn about the African American Civil Rights Network. Ashley is going to take it away to tell you all the things about the network, why the network is important, and then also how to join the network. In order to be eligible for our grant program, you have to be on the network. So Ashley, I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to give you the floor.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Vidette, for that introduction. Once again, my name is Ashley Adams. I am the National Program Coordinator for the African American Civil Rights Network, also known as AACRN. We were established in 2017. We are a part of the National Park Service, and we are part of under the umbrella of the Park History Program. The act was signed in 2017, authorizing the National Park Service to coordinate and facilitate federal and non-federal activities and sites to commemorate, honor, and interpret the history of the African American Civil Rights Movement here in the U.S. Also, it covers the significance of the movement as a critical part of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, along with the relevance of the Civil Rights Movement in fostering the spirit of justice and national reconciliation. Our logo, seen here on my left-hand side of the screen, is a representation of the movement and a representation of us moving forward together. We currently have 92 members. Of those 92 members, 19 of those are national park sites. Also, too, I want to point out that we have several different resources that you can actually apply under for our program. Each of these resources require a letter of owner consent, and I will explain that as I move through the slides. You can advance to the next slide. All right, so what are the goals of the Act? If you could, when you press the screen, it should actually bring up those bullet points. All right. So the goals of the American Civil Rights Network Act are to recognize the importance of the civil rights movement, sacrifices made by people who fought for equality, and to recognize the relevance of the civil rights movement and links to today. Next slide, please. Those goals are accomplished by the National Park Service by creating the African American Civil Rights Network, of course, which I mentioned earlier was done in 2017, to review studies and reports to complement existing studies of the historical importance of the civil rights movement, to produce educational materials that are related to the movement, and also to create the official logo that was on our first slide earlier. Next slide, please. So, network eligibility. What are the things that you need in order to qualify to be a part of AACRN? As I mentioned earlier, we have a few resources that you can apply under. We have 3. Each of those resources have to have a verifiable connection to the history of the African American Civil Rights Movement, African American Civil Rights and the African American Civil Rights Movement. Historical properties must be listed or are eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. Owner permission, which I mentioned earlier, letter of consent is necessary in order for you to be a part of the network. National Park Service units and programs must relate to the history of the civil rights movement between 1939 and 1968. However, there is a little bit of wiggle room. I will say that the majority of our sites that we have on our network, some of them are not within that 1939-1968 year. Some of them are a little bit further ahead as far as early 1900s. Reason being is because it is still related to civil rights and still related to the freedom struggle of African Americans in the United States. Next slide, please. All right, so those network resources that I discussed, properties are one of those resources. A property can represent a physical location of an event or pattern of events. It can also be a location that is associated with a significant individual or group. Properties must be designated on the National Register of Historic Places and have SHPO backing. For those of you who are not aware, SHPO is a state historic preservation office. And you have to upload that paperwork onto our website to show that you are a part of the National Register of Historic Places, or that you have SHPO backing. If you at some point happen to get a nomination for the National Register of Historic Places, then you can email us and with that paperwork, and we can actually upload it onto your application. So it's okay if you are not if you are not considered a property. If you don't have that designation as of yet, that is okay. We can rectify that later on down the line if necessary. So a few examples that we have listed here as far as images of properties include the Lorraine Motel, the home of Medgar and Marley Evers, as well as the Shelley home. And then the last picture image is the home of A.P. Terrell, who was the head of the NAACP defense team in New Orleans. Next slide, please. All right, so our second option that you can apply under are facilities. Facilities are a little bit different from properties. Facilities do not have to have the designation of the National Register of Historic Places. Facilities include locations that may or may not have been standing during the period, but are dedicated to collecting and interpreting the history of the movement during that time. So examples include this image here, the Dr. King Memorial in Washington, D.C. That can also include museums as well as repositories, including archives, universities, or historic sites that do not have the National Register of Historic Places designation. Next slide, please. And our last resource that you can apply under is a program. So programs can be classified as a tour, a performance, educational curriculum, a website, or art installation that includes murals that could be located on buildings as well. For example, the image that we have here is the We Shall Overcome Civil Rights Travel Itinerary that was in partnership with the U.S. Department of Transportation. So to be clear, you can, if you have more than one thing kind of happening at your site, say for instance that you're a facility that houses archival materials, or you are a museum, and you also have programs such as educational programs or tours that go along with that, you can apply under more than one entity. However, we just need for you to upload that paperwork to show the proof of that programming or archival work that you all are doing. Or you can apply under all three. If you have the designation for the National Register of Historic Places and you're considered a property, then you can also apply under that as well. However, we just need that proof uploaded onto the website. Last slide, please. So if you all have any questions, other than what we are going to be covering here today, you can reach out to me directly via email at acorn@mps.gov. That's AACRN@mps.gov. You can also check out some of the sites that we currently have on our network at go.mps.gov/acorn. And that is all.
Thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome.
Just some things to keep in mind as you're working your way through the grant program. Like I said, and like Ashley said, the first thing that you need to do, your first thing, is to go to the AACRN website and become a member of AACRN. You cannot get by that. If you do wind up coming to our website and creating a profile in our database so that you can apply, the first thing that it's going to ask you is, are you on the AACRN network? If you did not receive an approval from AACRN, at that point, I would say just reach out to Ashley at acorn@nps.gov, and ask her about the status, or if there's something that you need to update. I can say that the folks over at Park Service are very attentive. They answer just about any and every question that you have and are very, very helpful. So you won't miss a beat as far as, getting on the network. Now, there have been some instances, where we will accept portions of your application through our submittable portal, but it is always best just to start with AACRN. So today, when we hang up here, I would advise everyone to just bombard that website. Don't, they're about to be on furlough, so be very careful because, some folks won't be able to answer you very quickly. But go to the website, just peruse around and, get familiar with what it looks like to apply to an application. And Ashley, if I'm not mistaken, you guys have a sample application on the website, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, so there's a sample application for AACRN on their website. Everything is very detailed. There's a hyperlink to everything. You can't miss it. But the first thing that you want to do is make sure you get on that network before you move over to the grant program. Next slide, please, Camille. And then once you do that, you come over to our website, which I'm placing in the chat right now, just so that you can get familiar. You come over to our website, you sign up for Submittable and create your profile. While you do that, it just asks for simple things like create a Submittable profile, check your email, confirm everything. And then once you receive the approval, then you can come back to Submittable and start all of the other processes in the Submittable program. Now, I'm not going to go over every single step for Submittable today because it is on our website. If you scroll up a little bit, you'll see how to submit, how to create a profile and all of that on Submittable, so that we're making the most of our time here. Next slide, please, Camille. There is an eligibility questionnaire, and the first thing that it does ask is, are you a member of AAAM? You do not need to be a member of AAAM in order to apply for these grants, but we would like to welcome you to the AAAM family. And then it will also ask you if you are part of, if you are on the AACRN, if you're on AACRN, and once you're, like I said, once you're on AACRN, you are, award floor is $5,000 and our award ceiling is $25,000. And then there's an eligibility questionnaire. You could click on that as well, just so that you can see what it is. And that's on our website as well. Next slide, please, Camille. And then these are just some of the, what we want you to see is like what Submittable is, what it looks like, and things of that nature. You're going to be putting your contact information in there, your organization's name. Please make sure to always put your phone number in there, things of that nature, because when we get to the point where you apply, if we need to reach out to you, we want to be able to do that. But if we don't have your phone number and your email address and things of that nature, we won't be able to. Next slide, please, Camille. And this is exactly what Ashley was talking about. Some of you all have received grants from Park Service through their African American Civil Rights grants or their HBCU grants, and you are now eligible to jump on AACRN by submitting your owner consent letter. That's also something that you need to speak to Ashley about, which is just, the formalities of now that you've received those grants from Steel Peg, what your next steps are. We have sent out letters and emails to everyone who received an HBCU grant from Steel Peg and an African American Civil Rights grant from Steel Peg, just so that you know that go ahead and send your owner consent form. It's really simple. You've already done all of the other work. All you have to do is just upload it to the system, tell Ashley, hey girl, it's up there, I'm ready, I want to join the network, and she'll make it happen for you. It's really simple once you've already received those grants, because all of your information is already in the database. It's already with the Park Service, so it just makes it a little easier. For those of you who have not received those grants, excuse me, you still have to submit your owner consent form. If you're state funded, you have to have some type of letter from the SHPO, which is exactly what Ashley said earlier. She did a wonderful job. I don't need to explain all of this, but you can refer back to this video just so that you can understand the steps. Next slide, please, Camille. And then this is everybody's favorite part of a grant application, which is the budget form. I don't see any smiles besides me and Ashley. So, but it's a very important part. And I can tell you that our application process is very we reduce the burden for a lot of the applicants. It's plug and play. We just really want to know how you plan on spending the money. And you know, if it's and if they're eligible costs, that's what we're all about. We do not pay with this grant program. We don't pay for anything that's going to flag a Section 106 review, which means that that's you know, doing anything with the property. We don't want to touch the property. We're not doing historic preservation. That is what the National Park Service's steel peg grants are for. You can apply for those to do any historic preservation. These grants are more about programs, you know, helping us locate other folks within other entities within your neighborhood or throughout the country that should be on AACRN. We want all of that. If you're doing an exhibit, we want to be able to assist with these funds. And we have some really fun things that we funded in the first round. And that's also on our website that you can see, you know, who got funded, what type of projects came through and things of that nature. But yeah, the budget, it's an Excel spreadsheet. Just fill it out, upload it, and then you're good. As long as everything matches. Oh, speaking of match, this is a non-matching grant. We don't, because it's not a federal grant, we don't necessarily have the limitations of matching. If you have matching funds, feel free to put that in there, but this is a non-matching grant. Next slide, please, Camille. And everything that everybody really wants to know, total funding that we receive, excuse me, that we received from Park Service is 2.7 million. So we already did our first round. We still have some funds to give away. Minimum award amount, so your award floor is 5,000. The maximum award is 25,000, and the NOFO opens on October 1st. So what that means is you come over to our website and you can start poking around and doing the things that you need to do in Submittable. You can read the NOFO. I'm pretty sure it's on our website right now. So the website that I just put in the chat. So you just to get familiar with it. And then it closes December 1st. So Submittable will not be available to anyone after December 1st. We do plan on doing award announcements in February, and then funding disbursements by March. Next slide, Camille. And this is the website, same thing that I put into our chat over here. I just want you guys to get familiar with this logo. It's beautiful. Park Service put a lot of work into it. And I'm actually, this was when Dr. Lowe shared this with me. I said, yes, it's almost like we did it ourselves, but we didn't. She had somebody do it for her. So, but it's absolutely beautiful. Just get familiar with it, because when you see anything that comes from us with it, it's just an indication that, hey, it's time for the grants. It's time for money making stuff. So, we're really excited about that. Camille, do we have anything else? Question time. Oh, we just blew through everything today. Again, our website is listed here. And then if you have any questions specifically about the grants, email acorn@blackmuseums.org. But if you have questions about the network, that is acorn@nps.gov. So we're going to go to the questions real quick.
But before we jump into those questions, I do want to make clear that the letter of honor consent must give consent for the network only.
Yes.
There's sometimes where we have letters of consent that may state the grant, and unfortunately we cannot take those. So as long as your letter of consent has network consent saying that this particular property, facility, or program does have permission to be a part of the AACRN network, then we are good to go and we don't have to send you back any information. So I just want to make that little note.
That's really important, because there may have been a consent letter for Steel Peg side. So folks may think that, you know, it's so close. Those acronyms are so close. Sometimes you do have a tendency to kind of get it a little mixed up, but you're absolutely right, Ashley. So we do have a question about, are people from round one who received a grant from round one, are they eligible for this round? You are eligible. However, it's a competitive grant, so we want to give first dibs to those who didn't receive the grant before, but you are eligible. You can absolutely apply. What type of proof is needed for a museum? Would it be a flyer or other programming information? Are you saying, Angela, are you saying what type of proof is needed to be on the network as a program? Angela, please feel free to take yourself off of mute if you're still here.
Ashley, hi everyone. Ashley mentioned something about proof needed to be submitted, not necessarily for the network, but I didn't know if we had to, for programming, whether we had to submit flyers or things that we have done in the past to show that we're doing those type of programs.
Yes, that is correct. So any program flyers that you may have, that will probably be the most sufficient. If there are any tours or educational tools that you all may provide on your website, those will also be sufficient as well. Now, if you are applying for the museum itself rather than the programming, then you would need to actually, if you have like any archival materials, you can upload those to the site, just to show that you are keeping those records, or any images from the museum. If you have any art that's there, that could be helpful as well when applying for the network. And did I hit on target as to what you were asking for your question? I want to make sure that I covered the full spectrum.
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, Ashley, a lot of times with our museums, they're not eligible to be on the National Register because they didn't hit that threshold of age. So I think that a lot of our museums are more program. So you'll be getting a lot of, just so that everybody on this call knows, AAAM is part of the network as a program. So, feel free to frolic around that website and figure out what is program and what is building. Some of you guys are in historic homes. That to me, and I know Ashley would be so thankful to have you on the network in your historic home. So you could do programming and then also the building. And that historic home, as long as it's on the National Register, you can also put that information up there as well. So, and then if you're not on the National Register, please think about filling out the information to get your historic home on the National Register so it can be protected. That is a big deal. And it actually opens you up to other funding as well. Other funding and other visibility. Let's see. When should they expect to receive confirmation of acceptance to the network?
So confirmation, we take every 30 days. So usually about a 30-day window for applications. At this point, we are getting bombarded with applications. So just give us some time. You will also get an automated email. And that actually does not come from the AACRN email. It comes from CRPS at nps.gov. So sometimes that will go to your junk mail. Other times you may not necessarily recognize the email address. So a lot of times people don't open that. But you'll get a automated email, whether that is for acceptance and eligibility, or if we need more information from you.
Okay. The second part of that question is, what is the grant application deadline? And that's December 1st. Okay, and thank you, Ariel, for putting the link to the network in the chat. Will the PowerPoint be provided? Yes, that will be on our website as well, along with this video. So on our website that's in the chat, there'll be this video at the top. Then there's another video about submittable. And then you'll also have a link. There's a link for the NOFO. Notice a funding opportunity, but then there's also going to be a link for the slides. I think it's it. Let's see. There's a question about working on augmented reality for Harlem. It's called the Harlem Walk of Honor. Let's speak about that. Can you email me, G? So we can have a conversation about if it will be funded through AACRN. I don't think it would not. I just need to learn a little bit more about that. Because what you're doing in Harlem, it might be that Harlem needs to become a program of AACRN's. So that we can move that forward. It wouldn't be you per se, but let's go ahead. If you can please email info@Black Museums so we can schedule some time to have a conversation.
I think we might have missed one question there about the Arch Society. And you can just reach out to me directly. We are at the end of the fiscal year. So we are, and be mindful that I am fairly new to this position, so I'm playing catch up on all the applications that were there previously. So reach out to me directly at the AACRN at nps.gov, and we can talk further, and I'll also look in the system as well to see where your application is.
Ashley, there's a question about there's that's the mural project at DOI is part of AACRN. The question is, would sculptures be would they be eligible under a program?
Sculptures are eligible, and that was a little tricky when it comes to that. So sculptures are eligible along with the giving the artist credit. So that could work under the network. That's something that I will follow up with Dr. Lowe regarding as to whether sculptures, I believe that should be covered under the network. But I want to just make sure that I have confirmation on that.
Yeah, Vanessa, I would encourage you to email acorn@nps.gov so Ashley can have that question, and we'll be able to respond to you directly on that. Because to me, I would be thinking of like a sculpture garden or, things of that nature. But, as Dr. Lowe and Ashley kind of reimagine how some of these, everybody's so creative about about joining AACRN, and they don't know until it comes through about whether it's going to be there or not. So I would just say, Vanessa, please email acorn@nps.gov, and Ashley will be able to have that conversation with you directly. What is the age threshold? Michael, are you talking about Michael, can you take yourself off of mute if you're still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Wonderful. Hi, how are you, sir?
I'm well. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Vedette. Yeah, you had mentioned age or threshold as it relates to, I guess, a museum.
Mm-hmm.
And would be the distinction between being a part as a museum or institution versus a program. And so I was just curious what is there an age threshold for the museum?
There really isn't. That's more of like if you're trying to get on the National Register. How old are you in a historic building?
No.
Okay. how old is your program?
It's brand new.
I
That's
think that
why.
you're fine. I think that you're fine because your program is about what, anti-racism?
Yes.
I think you're fine. I think you're fine for program. Because you're also talking about, I'm assuming that you will also be talking about, not just the country, but then also Boston, right?
Correct.
Okay. So Ashley, how are your feelings about that being part of a program for AACRN?
Program will work.
There we
A
go.
lot of times you have there are a lot of museums that don't have they're not in historic buildings, and that's okay. So as long as if you have the paperwork for the program, even if it's brand new, if you kind of can lay that framework out and upload it to the system, then we'll be fine.
Okay. Thank you both.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
You're
Ashley.
welcome.
I look forward to seeing your well, I'm not going to see it, but Ashley will. I look forward to her telling us that you guys are coming into the system. There's another question about does the grant cover new art projects? Naima, I'm hoping I'm saying your name correctly. Can you take yourself off of mute so you can ask that question so I can get a little bit more clarity about it?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So the project is meant to document the stories, the untold stories of LGBTQA plus men in America, because of the vast silence and vacuum of those stories, but capturing those stories in the form of multimedia artistic projects. So mixed media, paintings, woven textiles that capture distinct stories from the community in Baltimore, Cincinnati, Oakland, California. And it'll be part of, you could call it an autoethnography of Black LGBTQ stories. And the idea is to have those be displayed in museums, but I didn't know if that met the eligibility requirements because it sounds like it's established programs and artistic pieces.
You have stumped me. Let's are you in a museum? Are you in do you have a program that you're working, like, is it a established nonprofit?
No, it's actually a research organization housed within a university. And we have been talking with museums in each of these anchor cities about partnerships.
Okay.
And so we have potential partners, but no affiliation, no official affiliation with the museum. And so I don't want to waste you guys' time, but
No, you're not wasting our time at all. Let's have a conversation so I can get a better, I really want to get this seems like it's going to be a one-on-one. So let's have a one-on-one conversation. And unfortunately, the federal government sounds like it's about to go on a shutdown, but I would like for us to have a conversation and we'll record it and then send it over to Ashley so she could watch it as soon as she's back at work. So that we can get a little bit more clarity, because I would fund it. But I need to know all of the particulars about how you can join the network in order for us to fund it. So if you email info@Black Museums, then you and I can have a conversation. Does that work? The next question is, yes, G, you guys, round one applicants are already on the network. You would not have been able to get a grant from us if you weren't on the network. Can I apply if we are just in the planning stages of creating a museum, or should I wait? Ashley, what are your thoughts on that? They are also getting ready to write the nomination for the National Register.
My thought is to wait um, until you are, well, let me ask this. Maybe I should backtrack. How far are you in the planning stage? Are you on the planning stage of you are just now beginning, kind of going through a agenda or do you have an opening date?
Yarbrough, can you take yourself off mute real quick?
Hi, this is Shauna Williams. Hi, Ashley. It's good to see and hear you again.
Hello, Shauna. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. One, we literally just got funding. We just got a grant for the funding to start planning the museum, and we're literally in the planning stages. We have not started anything. We've just been talking. I just got the funding, so we're about to, start. So I'm feeling like we may be a little too, and I also got the money to get the nomination letter written for the National Register of Historic Places. So I kind of feel like myself that we probably need to come back in a year or two when we're further down the road.
Ashley, can I jump in and answer?
Absolutely.
Hi, Dr. Lowe.
Oh, I didn't realize you were.
I just joined to hear that last question. So it was like, maybe I can provide a little bit more guidance. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. I'm Turkaya Lowe. I am Principal Historian and Deputy Federal Preservation Officer for the National Park Service and Manager of the Park History Program, under which the African American Civil Rights Network is administered. And I am so happy to see so many of you here and interested in the network and the grant opportunities. And thank you so much, Ashley, for giving what I know is a spectacular overview. To your question about the museum and operations, I always say there are two entities involved in the museum, or may be involved in the museum. There's the organization that manages and operates the museum, and there is the museum itself. Are you a 501(c)(3) organization that is doing interpretation or programs related to African American history outside of the physical building or museum of the museum?
We are a historic 501(c)(3) organization, yes. We are also undergoing a $300,000 building renovation. So at the moment, our programs are halted, but yes, we have programs actually for high school students that we normally run, yes.
All right. So that's two separate applications for the African American Civil Rights Network. You can apply to be a member as part of the organization, the historic 501(c), and then wait on your application for the museum until the museum opens its operations, right?
Okay, perfect.
And you as an organization can then apply for the mini grant. So yes.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lowe. And thank you, Shauna. We have a great question from the Hammond's house. Hi, Joanne, how are you? Quick
Hello.
question. Oh, look at you taking yourself off mute so fast. Joanne has a question about, the Hammond's house is, well, special to me. I'm thinking it should be special to the whole world. But it's in a historic district and it's not on the National Registry. Joanne, what's going on?
Well, what happened was the house was built in the 1850 something, 1857, I think is the exact date. So when the last owner purchased the house, he did some renovations that the historic preservation people deem whatever they deem that makes it ineligible to be on the historic register.
But your neighborhood is in the National Register. I would say, Turkaya, how do you feel about Hammond's House joining as a program? Joanne, I would join AACRN as a program because you can't get on the National Register yet.
Yeah. And to follow up on that, again, National Register eligibility is required is if you come in under the category. But if you are using it as a research facility, an archives, if you have collections, that is our facility category, or if you are doing interpretation programs, public tours, signage at the site as well, you can still become a member under either the facility or program category.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
You know, we got you, Joanne.
Appreciate you.
I can't help you write that National Register nomination, but I could get you that. And Henry has a question about, oh, because of the looming shutdown, will it impact the applications? So we have a plan. The plan is go ahead and do whatever you're going to do, Henry. Upload it to the system, get your application into AACRN so that, you know, whether you're going to be, is Muddy Waters, is that a historic home?
Yes, it is. It is a historic home, and it's on the National Register.
Oh, look at you. It sounds like you have three projects, three entities for AACRN. So what I would do, Henry, just go ahead and do what you need to do to get on AACRN. Last year or the last round, what wound up happening is there was a slight delay with what was, you know, approvals and our end of date, like our deadline for the applications. So what Dr. Lowe said was, go ahead, if they've have already put something into AACRN as an application, go ahead and submit the application for the grants. And if by chance something happens and you're not eligible to be on AACRN at the time, you're missing a document, you know, letter of consent isn't there, something like that, then we move you on to the next round. We have a conversation with you about getting your application together for the next round of funding. But just do it as if the government is not shutting down, because that website is still going to be open and our website is going to be open. Now, if there is an instance while the federal government is on furlough and there's a problem with the portal, email acorn@nps.gov and email info@Black Museums. And the reason you want to do that is so that you can have documentation saying that you tried to do everything on the portal for AACRN, but the system was down. That does happen. Systems go down, you know, machines don't work all the time. But I can tell you that the AACRN website is very stable. It's probably one of my favorite systems. And I'm not just saying that because Dr. Lowe's on the phone. I'm saying that because I've truly I've tried to break it several times and it doesn't break. So I would just say, Henry, you go ahead and do whatever you're doing. And all of you just do it as if the federal government is not, you know, closing. And if there's an issue, email both acorn@nps.gov and info@Black Museums to let us know that you're submitting a ticket.
Great, that's terrific. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And best of luck during the shutdown to those of you who work for the government.
It's a fun time. It's a fun time. Let's see. There's another question about shutdown. We're doing that. Murals. Vanessa, we answered your questions about sculptures. Dawn says, thank you. We got Naima. Are we missing anything?
I do want to point out, I think that Dr. Hickman did have her hand up.
Oh, okay. Dr. Hickman.
Good afternoon. The question that I had has already been answered, so I am good. I just wanted to raise the issue about the government shutdown, but you have already alluded to that, so thank you.
We've got you. We've got you covered. Like Allstate, and you know, they don't pay me to say that, so, and I don't even use them for insurance, so I'll retract my statement.
Okay, sounds good.
Good. There's a lot of questions about shutdown. Naima, since you're here, since you're still here and Dr. Lowe's here and we have some time, can you bring your question back up so she can help answer that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Coleman. I saw the PhD. It was like, let me put some respect on Dr. Coleman Robinson's name.
Thank you so much. I worked so hard for that thing.
So yeah, the question was, I got to know about this grant opportunity through my membership with the African American Artistic Administrators Network. And although I know it is typically for museums and folks associated with museums, my question was, would this grant opportunity also be applicable for an artistic project that will eventually be disseminated and displayed in museums across the country that document Black male LGBTQA stories from the 80s to the present?
Right, two things. Right off, first, you have to be a member of the network, right, to access the grant opportunity. So first, you have to have an entity or that is a member of the network. Now, the project you are talking about, the type, right, it would come under a program, right? We have under the program category art and art installations and art programs, right? So a program like that would be eligible for both membership in the network, and if it is focused on African American civil rights, whatever theme topic within African American civil rights is, it would then be eligible for the grant, because it sounds like you would be doing interpretive work through an artistic mode of Black LGBTQ civil rights history. So first, your first task is to become a member of the network through whatever organization you're affiliated with that would be your fiduciary for the grant, and then apply for the grant describing the program and how it will provide public education and interpretation of African American civil rights. Is that good? I missed the original question, so don't know what the...
Thank you. Yeah, that's super helpful. We will apply for membership as a first step. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Dr. Lowe, also too, while we have you here, there was somebody who had a question about sculpture. And I remember that we kind of had a brief overview of that last week, but if you could touch on that.
What was the question about sculpture?
Vanessa asked about DOI has that mural that's civil rights, so she wanted to know if sculptures would be considered for the civil rights movement as well, the civil rights AACRN. Vanessa, do you want to take yourself off mute so that just so that I know that I'm interpreting your question correctly?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Dr. Lowe, I'm sorry that I just sent you a very long message about this question, sort of.
No.
So we are raising funds and looking for a location to establish a piece of sculptural contemporary art in our downtown Durham, North Carolina area that helps explain the impacts of historically Black the people who founded these historically Black neighborhoods in Durham. We want to help people come in contact with that information. And so we want to put up a piece of public art in downtown to do that, but I don't know, if this is something that would be eligible, something that AACRN would fund.
Okay. Again, always start off with, are you a member of AACRN yet?
Not yet.
Organization. All right.
Not
so
yet.
First do the application. Again,
Joanne, can you put yourself on mute, please? Joanne, you're still, your mic is still on.
Oh, sorry.
Nope, it's okay. Thank you.
we do consider sculpture to be an art program that's interpretive in nature. The Martin Luther King Jr. National Monument is essentially a sculpture or a commemorative space. And of course, that is a member of the network. So yes, we would consider a sculptural representation of African-American civil rights or civil rights history to be eligible under a program category. If you are doing any programs or anything else connected to the sculpture garden, those activities would also be eligible for membership. And then to undertake those projects would then be eligible for grant opportunities.
So I just had a follow-up question. Is there a timeline for when those programmatic elements need to happen?
Do you mean for
So
membership or for the grant?
I'm trying my best to understand. So I think I'm asking about for the grant. So you mentioned sculptural art is eligible, but then also any programs that we plan around, like if we were to have like a lecture series or something around that, you know, that would also be covered. But in our case, that would probably not happen until later down the line. So I'm just wondering, like, you know, there are several things that we plan to do, and it sounds like all of the things that we plan to do could potentially be funded. So that's why I'm wondering, is there like a timeline? Does a program need to happen during a certain year or certain 6 months in order to be funded?
We have a grant agreement which lays out the period of performance for the activities that are listed in the proposal. So if you are proposing a lecture series within 12 months or whatever the grant agreement time would be, those activities have to be carried out.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much for your help.
Welcome. Deborah, I didn't even know that you guys are working on this. Deborah, what HBCU are you based? If you can take yourself off mute if you're still here.
Okay. Hi. I'm at Savannah State, and for about going on about 8 years, we've been doing a project where we use the AAMA as our primary work. And with you coming back to Baltimore, I'm really kind of excited because we have been studying the pioneers in the Black Museum movement. And a lot of those started with civil rights and artists, and it's the gamut. Yeah. And I'm a museum anthropologist. So this is a museum anthropology where we're studying Black museum anthropology. We're doing educational programs in the Savannah area, but we've also gone like to Providence to look at the early papers, Rowena Stewart and those folks. But a lot of it's been done frugally, let's say, you know, without applying for a lot of grants and all. But we want to do some more kinds of things. We did a cookbook where we looked at those over 300 pioneers that were in that early directory that was done in 1983.
Yes.
Okay, Blacks in Museums. So we have one of a handful that's still in existence. So we've been doing programming around it.
I would think that, number one, work with Savannah State to get on the network. They need to do that. Then number two, I'm just going to say that. Yes. Then number two is, I think that you guys would need to come on as a program And then you can have, you know, once you get on the network as a program, you can apply for a grant to do some of the stuff that you're doing for our pioneers. Thank you for your work and thank you for your tenacity. I know it's, you know, our records are scattered all across the country. I'm learning myself.
Yeah, 28 states.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, you know, let's work on a
I'm
directory.
talking about the early directory.
Yeah.
28 states. But there's one museum in Savannah that is represented 10 years of our work that I think really fits in because we're now in the process. We saved it from demolition.
Oh.
And we just got the city to come in because we got a dedicated buyer. So we're restoring the building. It was on a blight list. We put up a historical marker that references AAAM, AAMA, and because we've been members for the longest. So I'm really happy to learn more about this because we haven't done anything with the National Park Service other than back when Bill Gwaltney was active.
Yes, ma'am. I think that the program that you have is amazing and it needs to get on AACRN. And then you and I need to have additional conversations about well, you need to have an additional conversation with Ashley and maybe Dr. Lowe about that, about being on that HBCU campus. Because that's pivotal. But then you and I need to have conversations as we are ramping up to our 50th anniversary about how to bring all of that together.
Yeah, that's why I spoke up. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a good time.
Perfect timing.
All of our things can kind of come together now.
Perfect timing.
But it has a lot of legs because we've just applied for the National Register. We made the local because it's in a historic community. The Kaya House, Virginia Kaya was one of the early members of AAMA, along with Margaret Burroughs.
Yes.
National Conference of Artists. I mean, so, but there's other sites that we're looking at because of the diversity of membership in 1983. And coming out of Asala and all of those things, history. But this is not for me to teach this time. So I don't want to hold up everybody's head, but I'm just kind of excited. I will be one of those people blowing up AACRNs to join.
It is okay. I look forward to it.
And we already have our 501c3, so that's why we can be based at Savannah State. But I've been using students all along, so I'll be sitting in the dean's office working that out.
Wonderful. Let's definitely have a question. Thank you so much for your work, Deborah.
Okay.
Stearns, I don't know your first name. I'm sorry. I see the initial R. You've asked if there's a time frame. Yes, it's usually a year. So the grant agreement is for a full year. You can do an extension, but we try not to do extensions, but it's from whenever, you know, we roll out the grant announcement to the following year. And then there is one question about from the Buffalo Soldiers Museum. Welcome. Do you guys want to take yourself off mute real quick?
Yes, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, do you want to ask your question? Because it sounds like you're also working with the SHPO.
Yes, so we are in the process of preserving a historic building on a historic site on the National Register. And so we have a current museum in Tacoma. We're going to move to this site in Seattle. So with the movement, the building needs renovation, but it also needs capital campaign, design, finance, the full gamut, if you will, of project management. So the question is, based on your list of eligible costs, is that survey and planning, research and documentation, interpretation and education, or collections conservation?
What you're talking about sounds like it's preservation related of a building, and that would be from steel peg. Because you would need to have that building preserved. Now, what we do pay for under this grant program would be something similar, like if you're doing your surveys and things of that nature, we will pay for that. But if it's something that's going to flag 106, where you're working directly with the SHPO on preservation of a building, that's not an eligible cost with this particular grant. But if you hurry up, I don't remember when the excuse me, the AACRN, the AACR applications are due through grants.gov. I think it's coming up really soon, but if you miss
October 15th, I think October 15th. Yes.
So I would say go ahead and apply for that because it sounds like you have all of the stuff that you need for that particular one. Because you're going to be doing plans and specs, the preservation of the building, all of the stuff that would be under steel peg instead of this one.
Okay, let me just also add, we recently got funding from Washington State Legislature to complete the feasibility study. So that's done. But with the public-private partnership with the city of Seattle, because the building will always be owned by the city of Seattle, we'll just have a lifelong lease because of the historical significance and the building being preserved there. So we have money for the feasibility study, but in the public-private partnership, they've asked, since the project is so huge, that we bring on a firm to manage the project overall and the implementation.
So what you're asking about is a consultant or advising, not for the project, for the actual preservation project?
Right, it's consulting and advising overall, but it includes more than just a construction piece. I mean, it is the architect, it is the design, but it's fundraising, it's capital campaign, it's community engagement, it's the big move from Tacoma to Seattle as well.
I still feel like that's a steel peg grant because it's more of, you're doing a capital campaign, you're working with the building. These particular grants are more for programs. We will help out with, some other minor items, but if it gets too technical and it's sounding like 106 is going to be involved, or we have to be too technically involved with the SHPO, that is definitely steel peg, and they have grants up to $750,000.
Okay, can you send that link, or couldn't you put that link in the chat?
We'll put it in the chat. Yep, we will absolutely.
The link is in the chat.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, we are over time, everyone, as you guys usually do to me in AAAM land, almost embarrassing me to a point of having us go over. But this was an amazing conversation, and I welcome any time that I can get some interface with you all for you guys to, meet our federal partners and understand the work that we're doing and the offerings that we have for you. I thoroughly enjoy it, and I can't think of another way to spend my Friday with you. I couldn't pay for lunch for you all or anything like that, but we're going to get these grants, and you guys are going to join the network, and positive vibes to our federal partners as they are looking towards a looming furlough. But we appreciate you guys. We love you all. Again, if you have any questions, hit up Ashley. That she loves you. acorn@nps.gov, and you can always email us at info@Black Museums. I appreciate each and every one of you. I look forward to seeing you in Baltimore for our conference next year, and then also looking forward to seeing all of those applications come through the system. Love you. Talk to you later. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.